Hi everyone, hope you're well today. So when people say email marketing doesn't work, what they usually mean is that it didn't deliver fast enough, or it didn't reverse a decline that had already started elsewhere. However, what they rarely question here is that, when and how email marketing was introduced in the first place. In most agencies, email marketing is not positioned as a foundation. It's actually positioned as an extra, like a bolt on. It is something that, gets suggested after, things like paid ads do a nosedive, or after organic traffic slows down, or, after social engagement fails to convert into revenue. By that time, email is brought into the conversation. When email marketing is introduced late, it can sometimes inherit a situation it did not create. For example, like an offer may have been repositioned, more than once in an attempt to improve results. But the thing is, email was never designed to operate as a rescue channel. It was designed as a compounding channel. But there is a bigger issue here, which is trust. When agencies are brought in to fix email marketing, they are usually entering a relationship where other channels have already underperformed. So by the time email is introduced, it's really probably on its knees. This is why so many email marketing retainers struggle to stabilize. It's not because the work is, poor, and it's not that the copy is ineffective. You see, when something is sold as an add-on, it carries a different psychological weight. It feels secondary. It feels like a lever that can be pulled back if budgets are tightened, or results, really sort of take a lot longer than expected. Agencies often widen their service offerings in an attempt to increase, average client value, or, appear more comprehensive. The email marketing really becomes part of a really wider a bundle, sitting along like ads and social content and SEO. On paper that looks sensible, it looks sensible, but in practice there is no clear sequencing and no defined structural role for email within that growth model. It becomes really just another moving part rather than a central system. Social media is a direct bridge between interest and retention. It's where messaging can be refined, it can be reinforced, and it can, deliver consistently without relying on sort of like changing platform algorithms. The wider market conversation rarely addresses this as a structural issue. Most content you see focuses on tactics, subject lines, segmentation strategies, automation tools, or the latest AI driven optimization. Those elements matter, but they do not compensate for poor positioning. If the channel enters the growth model at the wrong stage, no amount of tactical refinement will allow it to compound properly. The core issue is sequencing. If email marketing is introduced as a foundational system that supports messaging, nurtures demand, and stabilizes retention from the beginning, the get-go, it has the time and context, and it really needs that to perform. So the agencies experiencing churn in email are rarely facing a channel problem. They are actually facing a structural positioning problem. And until email is introduced at that right stage, and given a really defined role within a controlled system or a controlled growth system, it will continue to really be less effective than it actually truly is. This is the difference. It's not technical, it is actually structural. Anyway, I'll see you soon. See you on the next one.